What's going on, everybody? Dogman Dan here. Warframe. So I'm gonna start off with some topics here. Next couple of videos that are gonna be, I would say, hot topics to me, maybe controversial to others. I don't know. Of course, I'm going to be very opinionated as always, and please do feel free to leave your comments and your thoughts below regarding the issues. Okay. So we're talking about the 4K UI that came in update 20. We all know what it did with your screens if you're not running on 4K. We all know about the gigantic interfaces now, non-scalable. You can't do anything about it. So let's go back to the beginning of this to kind of give you the background, if you will. And I'm going to read this basically from posts that were made by DE on the forums. Okay, they've been working hard on the 4K support, and these are basically the approaches that were made to the UI for some things. Now, first off, let me just kind of read through this, and I guess maybe you'll understand. And this is where I don't even know how to really get into this, but this is where the issue really lies. The underlying issue in this is that they acknowledge that the majority of their player base is using either 720 or 1080 resolution. So they decided to design the original in between that as a 1600 by 900, and when it scales down to 720, it's readable. And in 1080, we just added empty space around it, so that way it looked like it scaled better. Okay, so when they added the empty space around it, 4K things looked extremely tiny because they had all that extra space. And the first change is now that all the screens will adjust to the resolution, which I'm okay if they adjust to the resolution. If you were playing at 900 or less, there's really no change for you. But if you were playing on a 1080, the screen now won't have empty space at all. Instead, it will grow to match the resolution. Well, however, it is super grown. It is way too overcrowded. It overcrowds even in-game the UI that's in the game when that screen comes up as well. Okay, and they also made some changes to the chat scale, slider to increase the size of the cursor, and HUD scale now always with higher will always allow higher values. One key note here is that this change is still being worked on in font rendering and in an ongoing effort for future revision for launches. Now, I would be okay with this if it weren't for a few things. So, throughout the different posts that I've read, okay, and this is the biggest thing, is that they knowingly put in the UI system or UI visual change, knowingly that it was going to wreck the majority of the base of players. The majority. Come on, let's be honest here. They even say it. The majority of players are on 720 or 1080. The UI was set up that way, and that's the way that it should have been. Okay, and then they go and implement 4K support, and they fuck it up for the majority of their player base. And they recognize that they fucked it up for the majority of players. So, at the basic level, okay, especially when you're 4 years into the game, you shouldn't be implementing a big change like this without having done some major testing. Major testing. To know that you wouldn't fuck it up for the majority of your player base before you implement what is for who knows how many. Maybe 1% of your player base. I've never had any game that I've played where the 4K support has fucked up the visuals of my 1080 or 720 or any other resolution. They have admitted that they don't fully know how to code, obviously properly, for this. And they've also said that we have to deal with it because it's just the way it's going to be until they can figure out how to fix it. Okay, so again, let's reiterate this. I'm going to put in a UI scaling system for 4K support. I know it's broken before I put it in. I know it's going to be fucking broken with the majority of my player base. And I'm going to wonder why people are going to get pissed off at me about it. Especially when I tell them that they're just going to have to deal with it because we don't have a fix for the fix that you broke. Okay? And I really don't understand sometimes. I just don't get it. Okay. Now, then, going back on this topic, after they said that, on March 3rd, now, today, March the 30th, for me, still, they've come back and they've reworked it. Their experiences on this. And I guess it's maybe enough player backlash, but they're making they made a secondary thread about this. And the U20 brought the 4K and the menus and all that thread. They were excited and looking into it, and they realized that using this different resolutions changed the magnifying effect. And yet again, now they talk about to save your eyes and restore menu utility to its former glory. They're working on adding a menu scaling slider in the HUD settings. That's great. That's just great that you're working on adding one in. It'll take them some time to figure it out and touch up on all the menus because apparently all the menus are done individually. Every single one. But eventually you'll get your choice of freedom to scale that. That's great. I'm so happy that they're working on it. What shouldn't have happened is you shouldn't have released this until you had the full system figured out. Both the scaling for the 4K, or the support for the 4K, and the ability for your player base, your majority player base, to be able to fix the menu supersize, the scaling issue. I know the DV's been around a lot longer than 4 years. We know some of the past stuff that they've worked on. And really, honestly, this should be basic stuff for developers at this point. Rolling into 4 years of a game, trying to put in 4K support and not knowing what you're doing, and then now playing and shooting from the hip to try to fix it after a big backlash from the community about it. That's just not the way that that's just not the way that it goes. It's not the way that you continue positive development of a game. I'm pretty sure you lost a lot of players because of this UI scale issue. Just because of the scale issue. But had you not implemented it because you wanted to implement so much shit at one time, and you took your time to do it right, you would have gained more players had you implemented the 4K support at the right time. With it being properly implemented. I don't know what else to say. Anyway, please do feel free to share your thoughts below. And stay tuned for the next episode.